Prices are one aspect, but the supply chain, my belief, is a bigger and more profound issue. So I want to ask both organisations how you plan to deal with this risk and remove it from the future as a serious concern for the farming community.
Just in relation to how do we plan to deal with this risk, I mean, a lot of this is, to be fair, out of our hands. It's like the previous question in relation to whether the costs will come to the consumers. Unfortunately, the majority of what we produce is exported out into world markets, to markets where CBAM doesn't apply, and the consumers out there in the markets will set the price, so we will be price takers. So that was just the question from the deputy across the table. Just in relation to how we deal with this risk, I suppose in parallel there's a huge exercise around water quality that's taken place, and we have achieved our derogation in the short term, but we absolutely have to achieve it in the long term, and a lot of that is about reducing the amount of fertiliser that's been used and using fertiliser a lot more judiciously and carefully. One of the risks, we know that probably a slight majority of total nitrogen fertiliser that's imported into the country is used by dairy farmers. Dairy farmers, rightly or wrongly, it's probably the enterprise that has the capacity, the greatest capacity to absorb some increase in fertiliser. By no means can they afford it, but they will continue to use a reasonable amount of it. I think there's a significant concern that the other enterprises, the less profitable enterprises, unfortunately, will reduce dramatically less fertiliser and introduce a lot of risk to their own businesses, because will they be able to grow the fodder for next winter, etc. So I think there's a big strategic risk in those enterprises if their use of fertiliser drops below a particular level. So that's a key one. But go back to the other one around nitrates, the big effort that's going on at the moment to improve water quality, to reduce the level of nitrates that's in our rivers, and that hopefully will to some extent reduce the amount of nitrogen fertiliser that's been used. And there's a national commitment and a national strategy to reduce the amount of chemical nitrogen. So that will to some extent reduce our dependency. But ultimately, we don't have a domestic supply of chemical nitrogen. We're going to be importers, and unfortunately we're importers from third country markets.
Is it going to be a serious concern going forward? Do you have a serious concern about it?
Well, I suppose we just represent our co-ops, right? So we just really know what they're finding, and their concern is that in order to persuade manufacturers, and the biggest ingredient in chemical nitrogen is natural gas. It's energy. And in order to persuade them to manufacture the fertiliser for next year, people in the Irish supply chain are going to have to probably have to commit to prices that would be, even higher than they are now. And that's the big concern. Is it economic to do that?
And is it possible to reduce the fossil fuels-based fertilisers without reducing farm output and incomes? Is that possible?
No, I couldn't see that being possible. No, it's not possible.
Why would you say that?
In my opinion, is that by reducing chemical fertiliser, I know you can replace a certain amount of it with your slurries, but it still wouldn't be enough to grow the crops. Like, you're going to have a reduced output. Like the land, I know we're doing land testing. So in my opinion, to be reduced output. I could see this by reduced fertiliser.
Because we're all well aware both the output and the incomes are very important. Correct. For the farming communities.
Correct. But also, if you're reducing chemical fertiliser, you're also reducing our incomes as well. So it works both for farmer and for a contractor. Both are at the have a negative effect on.
If there's less fertiliser spread, there'll be less work done, there'll be less silage. We're going to be faced into maybe next winter with a scarcity. There's going to be less corn and so on. There's going to be, I know they say they can import it, but there's only so much they can import at a price. You're going to have less straw.
And also from an economy point of view, we export 90% of what we produce in this country, and that adds to the coffers of the state. Surely to God, we're not happy enough to reduce our production levels. We all pride ourselves in growing our production and growing in the right, you know what I mean, exporting more
Which is
food.
important,
I mean,
yeah.
if we don't have fertiliser, a steady flow of fertiliser, listen, we'll use it as beneficially as we can, but if we don't have a steady, we're not going to be able to produce the food, produce the beef, produce the milk. You know what I mean? So exports are going to be down.